not just a drummer. You've got a huge fascination with indigenous instruments and all your percussions as well. How did that come about? How did you find all of those?
Well, I started with sound and drumming kind of all started at the same time. I started drums in April of '93 and I started playing didge in September '93. And I was lucky with the didge is that someone gave me a didge and 10 days later I could circular breathe.
Wow.
But I pushed it. I mean, every day I played for more than an hour every day.
Oh, wow,
So I'd come home from work and I'd just play and play and play. Then with indigenous instruments, you know, I did a sound journey in, I think it was in about '95. Oh, I was invited because I could play drums and didge, and I've had a few other instruments, and these guys invited me to do the sound journey. And it was just such a brilliant idea. I mean, I'd actually been doing that kind of work my whole life and I didn't realize it. So I've always had this thing about sound and making sounds in weird places that echo, you know, and just like feeling that and hearing that and experiencing it. And so immediately I thought, I've got to do this. This is something, and 3 years later I found the right group of people to do it with.
Awesome, man.
And I'm still working with the one woman now. After 16 years, we're still working together. And so we've done thousands and thousands of sound journeys and sound therapy sessions.
What has been the most courageous thing that you've done on your musical journey?
I don't know, I think that sometimes I'm braver than I realize. I think starting a band back when I did in 2005 or wherever it was, and pulling some students together, because I knew lots of professional drummers but they could never really agree on a part. You know, everyone had their own style, and I just found these students that were really passionate, and getting them together and then performing within a few months, and they were students, they're not performers, you know. And when I listened to some of the recordings of the rehearsals, I mean, we weren't bad. We weren't very good, but we weren't bad. And how that grew into a band that was 14-piece and a 2-hour variety show of I think that's the bravest thing I've done. And then and by the end of it, I mean, we started with the West African stuff, and by the end of it, and our last show, which had about 23 pieces, I think only 6 were West African. The rest we wrote, or I wrote, and arranged. You know, so I think just becoming a musician was the bravest thing I ever did. But I'm so glad I did. It's been the best journey ever.
What do you get the most joy out of in your journey?
There's a few things that give me a huge joy. When in teaching, when a class just clicks and you can just see everyone is smiling. There's just big smiles on everyone's face. I used to struggle with that in the earlier years. Now I find it very easy because I've just learned how to put the right. You always got to put one person in the group that can hold that group. You know, then it goes. And that's one thing that gives me great joy. I think when you're at a drum circle, because I don't get to play free very often. Playing free on your own is kind of like one-hand clapping. You know, it's kind of boring. When you're in a drum circle and you get to the point where the circle's grooving and you can just go off and you can do a solo, there's a trance solo, you're in a trance state and you're soloing. That's sublime. It doesn't happen often. If I get there once a year, it's a lot.
Oh, really?
It's really hard because it's a whole lot of circumstances have to come together. You know, it's almost like weather. You know, everything has to align. And then I think when I'm writing, sometimes I'm sitting with the hum and I'm just patting away, and suddenly this melody just comes out of nowhere, and then the melody grows, and then I run to the computer because I've put the notes of my hum into a program. So then I can write the notes. It's just a simple program online that you can download called Percussion Studio. I love refurbishing instruments and making stuff with my hands. And these days I rebuild djembes, so I'll buy second-hand djembes and strip them and rebuild them from scratch.
So you don't actually do the bowls yourself?
No, that's another thing.
There's
enough djembes out there. You don't have to make more. You know, there's more djembes in garages than there are being played. You know, and in attics and in lounges use this coffee table. So whenever I see a djembe that needs rescuing, it's almost like the I don't know, SPCA, but for drums, what would you call it? The Society for the Prevention of
Drum abuse.
Yeah, yes, exactly. Djembe abuse as well. So yeah, when I rebuild a drum and then it's the day it's done, like the one I brought to the class, you know, the blue rope, and it's done. And then there's such joy because that drum was not even half of what it ends up being.
Did you actually write a book on djembe?
I'm busy writing.
Okay, so what is it going to be about?
Well, you know, over the years, because I've taught so many people, people have arrived at my classes with how to learn djembe books. There's so many. And they're simple. I mean, I understood them quickly, but obviously I would. And so what I decided is that I want to write a book that a person literally can sit down with the book and they can teach themselves a rhythm.
That's great.
So, my biggest dream is to do a full-on stage show with dance and drum and percussion, all kinds of percussion. And I'm busy writing it right now. I'm already arranging the music and everything. And it's from Southern African styled music with djembes to Latin styled. It's you know, we don't want, because everything's got their drums. So in order to do it, you've got to have like 1,000 drums in order to do a show like this. But we're keeping it well, mostly to the djembe. And then like on the Arabic stuff, we'll move to dabukas, you know, and just go away from the djembe.
They're very different sounds.
But we're keeping the bass drums, and so I've been writing this contemporary versions of these genres. So I've written a whole lot of Latin stuff and belly dance stuff, and I like all kinds of belly dance, not just the traditional. I like the folkloric, which is the original belly dance, and I like the modern tribal fusion belly dance, which is a lot more gothic, and, you know, and it uses other Indian styles of dance and Chinese styles of dance, and, you know, so. And then also just writing contemporary stuff that's got a house feel, that's got a hip hop feel, it's got a drum and bass feel, or something more modern. And and then obviously always doing some West African, because the West African stuff's stunning. It's beautiful, you know.